Well, hi. Hey, everybody. Gosh, oh boy, there's a lot going on. You know what? What I really want is that. Yeah. There's still a lot going on in this background. You know, tonight is a special night. Welcome to Quilt Nerd. It's Saturday night. We're live from Chicago and from New York City and from Baltimore. I mean, ish, right? That's fair. Baltimore, you know? Right, Steph?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, that's geographically where I am.
Geographically, we are on the East Coast, we are in the Midwest, and all around the world, really. Because if you're here watching the show live, we know that we have people all over the country of the United States and all over the world. We have friends in South Africa, we have friends in the UK for sure, and most of them are sleeping in their beds. Hopefully, I don't know, sleeping somewhere. And so they'll probably watch the replay. We got the replay gang who watch, the gang watches the show on YouTube or on Twitch if you don't make the live show. But wherever you're watching from, and if you're watching live or later, I'm very, very glad you're here. Quilt Nerd is a show, had a day. Quilt Nerd is a show about quilts. It's not gonna teach you how to make them. It's gonna hopefully be really fun because we just get to look at quilts and enjoy them and sort of explore the whole world as we look at one quilt at a time. You know, I have been doing this show for about a year, and the community that's growing, the people who watch this show, who communicate with me and each other in the chat, they're amazing. These people are amazing. We've had a lot of fun. I've been to quilt shows in Birmingham, England, and I took you with me. I've been to quilt shows in Lincoln, Nebraska, the Great International Quilt Museum, the Iowa Quilt Museum. So you get to come along. And what's great about a live stream platform like this is, you know, it's live, but we get to look at things. So it's like the radio, you know, it's like live radio because, you know, the live part, but you don't get to see stuff on radio. And it's a little like TV, except, you know, TV executives squash your soul and creativity and give you time limits, and we don't have any of that. So, so it's a cool platform, especially for quilters or quilt people, quilt fans of history, all that stuff. So I have more of a spiel, but the biggest thing to point to on your screen, you know, is like that right there. I mean, not the biggest, the most important thing to say tonight. Hannah, okay, do you see the Nan Cam?
I see the Nan Cam at last, yes.
Okay.
Hey,
So,
that picture, I look crazed.
no, you don't. I'm going to show you the picture. It's really good. I'll show you the picture where I got it from. It's a picture of you and me, and we look adorable, I think. I mean, anytime somebody makes your face like a little tiny circle, like I tried different things, and this was, you look sort of like mischievous, you know? And so I went with it, and I put a pink frame around you. So people out watching tonight, I'm a little nervous because I've never had a guest on the show in this way. My sister Hannah is, I mean, Hannah, you taught me everything I know. What can I say?
Goodness, well.
And yeah, and we did the show together in New York twice. People loved it. I loved it, and it was great. But I was in New York with you, right, to do it. And so now we've like piped you in from New York City, and it's a crack up. I mean, it's just kind of like all new tech all the time. I'm always learning something new with this. But you're here, and how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing all right. I actually spent most of my days, I was sewing, honestly.
Really?
I'm not a quilt maker, but I was stitching on a garment collaboration project with a fashion designer friend I'm working with.
Yeah.
And so my hand is very sore from stitching, but other than that, I'm super content. It was awesome. So it's good.
That's great. People say a lot, people who make quilts, and I make quilts, but it's been a while. Well, I'm working on something, but anyway, I'm not like sitting at a sewing machine these days. But Hannah, a lot of people who make quilts say it's a meditative thing. It's a very meditative act. They get into the zone. They sort of feel in the flow, the creative flow. Was that true for you? Would you say it's a meditative kind of thing?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I love it. I love a tedious task. Tedious crafty task. I mean, not like, I like cleaning tile grout.
Right.
But yeah, like quilt, like sewing, beading. I do a lot of stuff with like leather applique and things. Like then you have to punch holes before you sew because trying to put a needle through a piece of leather is difficult, if not impossible. Yeah. So it's just like these sort of repetitive, specific, precise tasks, and I like them. They're a vibe.
Nice. Good to know. Repetitive tasks. I mean, if you have, if you're making something, I mean, I think that's part of the, the difference between, when you're stitching something, it's a lot of, in and out like that, and it's cutting and pressing and doing all that, but you get something at the end. I mean, you have an item that you made. You have
it's not like you're just doing taxes or whatever.
Yeah, doing taxes or working, at some mind-numbing job that making widgets that you never use, right? How's your Steph? Is Hannah's sound okay? Could it be bumped up, or Hannah, could you get closer? I don't know. I'm just feeling like just a little. I don't know. If Steph says it's okay, it's okay. So, anyway,
Sibilance,
it's okay.
Check. Sibilance, check.
Yeah. So anyway, I was working on the show today and getting things ready for you, and I know you have some things for us too. First, we start every show with the quilt behind me, the quilt that is sort of the backdrop, and tonight is no different. And I have a really amazing backdrop quilt selected especially for you, Nan. Especially for you, and I'm very excited to read about it. One thing to know about this show, for those who are new, is that it's an exploration. It's not a presentation. When I give lectures, I mean, polish like for days, polish the house. I am very precise and very particular about all little details of my lecture, and I have all my facts checked and all that stuff. Quilt Nerd is different. I want to learn things about quilts, and when I'm researching for lectures or researching for an article, I find such wonderful things, and I want to share them with you. But to do a lecture for you every 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week, that doesn't make sense. But if we look at things together and we sort of explore them as a group, right? If I'm doing it in real time, doing this research in real time, and you all can be part of that, it's really fun. So you'll see that tonight. You'll see me learning along with you. Like, for example, I haven't read all about this quilt that I'm gonna show you. We're gonna look at the full picture of it. I don't know. I found the quilt. I love it for many reasons, and so I'm gonna read about the quilt for the first time when I show it to you. Okay, so I'm gonna get small. Let me get small here. How about the small? And the Nan Cam small. Do you see? You're small, Hannah. Actually, you're bigger than me. That's kind of an interesting effect. Excuse me. I am going to do one quick thing. Whoops. Sorry. I'm going to do one quick thing. I'm going to say hi to some folks because I see new people in the chat, and I want to say hi to you. I want to say hi to everybody. Mom tells me, Hannah, that I can't say hi to like everybody because it just takes too long.
Well, sure.
But I want to. And people really.
She's not the boss of you.
That's right. I'm an adult. I can do what I want. People really like you, Hannah. Like you get folks excited. Stephanie Cake, you said your mom was watching tonight, right?
She is, yes. And I told Hannah has got quite the fan club.
Including your mom, right? Your mom is like, She would you say she's an Ann fan?
Yes, I think she's an Ann fan.
She's an Ann fan. Yeah.
My stock trades high with moms.
What's that?
My stock trades high with moms.
Your stock trades high with moms.
It
We
does.
just got our second hype train, by the way. Let me do this. You know, the hype train. Like, how would you define the hype train, Steph? While I'm kind of fixing this little thing here, how would you? You know, people who are new to this, it's like, what's the hype train? Like, what is that about?
So the hype train is a frenzy of excitement where nerds who are watching subscribe, give away subscriptions, use their bits to celebrate. So if you see the little, I think somebody has put some cute little hearts and a unicorn popping its head out, so cute. Those are bits. So when all that stuff is happening, it creates a hype train.
And it sort of shows, like, you know, yeah, exactly, like you said, the excitement of the show and people getting into it, and it's just sort of fun. That's one of the reasons I like Twitch, is all the fun things it can do. So anyway, hello to Miss Elaney and Jill, Word and Bird Nerd, hello. All those welcome baskets that you see in the chat. If you're new around here, if you chat for the first time, or you're like, hey, I'm new here, those are for you. It's a pretty cool group of people. We really we want to meet more of us, you know, the quilt nerds out there. Mademoiselle Larry, hello. Yvonne, my friend. Lady K. Oh, Lady K just watched Elvis on HBO. But I mean, I love Elvis. The young Elvis is, you know, something strange happens to me when I see him. Hannah, have you watched young Elvis, like, doing his thing? Like, have you watched YouTube videos of him doing it?
Yeah.
I feel funny when I watch it. I'm just saying.
Well, can you imagine? I mean, yeah, it was like, if you feel funny now in like our jaded, you know, 22nd century cultural context or whatever, 21st, I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, imagine how completely unhinged that was back in the day, and like whenever he was it 50.
Yeah.
Early 50s.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so Lady K saw the movie. I'm curious. She says, now I'm ready for Mary. How was it, Lady K? I want to know. I don't want to know if other people have seen it. Theodore coming in with the music. Thank you so much. Saucy and Robin. And IWC Quilts. I see everybody. I see Jill and Tawny and Little Bird Stitch. I'm going to do a shout out to the first timers and the people returning. So if I see you, I will absolutely say hi, and you know everybody else out there. I'm really glad you're here. You know, I'm gonna get warmed up here a little bit. I was really struggling with tech, and I'm not supposed to say that because it's totally fine. Lulu Paperbird's here. You know what? That's what I needed. I needed my soundboard. Okay, Gamer Granny and Padma and everybody, you're here. All right. So Lady K, it's great that you're back. So I am going to tell you, Hannah, that I picked this quilt to show you because I thought you would love it. Let me zoom in on it, okay? Let me just get...
Because I'm looking at it on my... Because of tech.
Yeah.
I'm looking on YouTube, on my iPad.
Wow.
And there's so it's a whole thing. So,
it's a whole thing, yeah. So this quilt, when I saw it in the book on Oregon quilts, we're going to take a look at in a little bit, I just thought it was so great. And it was so different from a lot of the quilts that were in the book, right? I mean, this is sort of Art Nouveau, would you say?
Household as a child?
Say it again?
Was this book in our household with children?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, because I feel like I've seen this quilt.
Really? That's good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was sort of, you know, it was unique, like you, right? Yeah. It's pictorial, but it's kind of a different sort of pictorial quilt. Like sometimes I think about pictorial quilts and I think about the quilts with, you know, little animals on them, you know, and like smaller animals across the quilt, or houses or people, like Harriet Howard's Bible quilt, you know, these different quilts that have smaller pieces to them. But this is definitely pictorial. And it's like a big painting, right? It's like this big painting. And this swag border, I love it.
Oh,
I think it's so great.
I mean, it's not my favorite color palette,
sure.
But just for what it is, it works beautifully. I think it's awesome. Enjoying very much the little swoopy eye spectacles on the cranes.
Oh, the eyes. Okay, I want to see these.
Like those, yeah, they're just neat.
Yeah. Okay. Eye spectacles.
Cool. Yeah, this is cool.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay, good. I thought you would like it. Oh yeah, the eye spectacles.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah, it's pretty fabulous. They're really fabulous. Okay, so here is what this is all about. One of the reasons I picked it for you is because we're going to talk about quilts made in the northwest corner of the country. And this is because Pem Burrito, who's a watcher, a regular viewer of Quilt Nerd, she redeemed some channel points. The longer you watch the show, the more you engage in the chat, you earn channel points. Our channel points are thimbles, of course. So Pem spent some thimbles and on being the content director for a show, and so she wanted to see quilts from the northwest part of the country. And indeed, I have that ready, and Hannah and I have been talking about it. So this quilt too is from Oregon. So that was part of why I thought it was appropriate. But also, the person who made it was named Hannah. The person,
Oh, really?
yes, Hannah Hayes Headley. Hannah Hayes Headley. This quilt was made in 1930, and I'm going to zoom
Really?
in more. Yeah, 1930.
Well, actually, you know what? Now that you say that, honestly, it has a little bit of a little Art Nouveau kind of vibe to it. So I guess that's not all that shocking. That also would explain the palette.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
it also this could have been made 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, it does, that green is kind of 1930s, right? But when you
Very
think
much,
of,
yeah, with the salmon, sort of the salmon pink. It says like linoleum tile
Yeah.
kitchen with like a squat refrigerator in it.
yeah, exactly. So the quilting is just, yeah, the quilting is amazing. So here we go. So this is from Treasures in the Trunk, Quilts of the Oregon Trail. This remarkable quilt is the original work of quilt artist Hannah Hayes Headley of Topeka, Shawnee County, Kansas. Oh, she's from Kansas, but it was in the other book. Okay. We'll probably learn why. Oh, let's see. Hannah was considered the artist in the family, and when times were hard, she earned a little money by teaching china painting and watercolor in her home, and by accepting orders for hand-painted china. By 1910, she was married for the third and last time. Oh, okay. Wow. She third time's a charm.
But okay.
Yeah. By 1910, she was married
Yeah.
for the third time. Interesting. Members of her family looked down on her for her multiple marriages, which were uncommon at that time. In fact, when Hannah's niece, Pauline, wanted to take watercolor lessons from Hannah, it was allowed only with the provision that the lessons take place on the front porch. Yeah, the inside of Hannah's house was strictly off limits. What?
Because she was a harlot.
She was a harlot. Oh my God, but
She was a woman of ill repute.
She was a trollop. She was even a trollop. Yes. In 1914, Pauline, this is crazy. Wait a minute. Okay, everything just clicked into place. Everything is fine. This is crazy. This is one of these moments. Listen to this. Okay. In 1914, Pauline was accepted to the New York School of Fine and Applied Art. She was in New York. She went to New York. And Hannah's in New York. That's crazy. I didn't know it. I mean, I didn't know about Hannah. Yes.
Pauline.
Oh, Pauline. Oh, yeah, Pauline. Okay, yeah.
So the niece.
Close enough. Okay, yeah, close enough, because Hannah accompanied, I'm going to do let's look at the whole quilt again.
Oh.
Hannah accompanied Pauline to New York as a chaperone. And Hannah earned their room and board by painting china.
That's code for something.
Exactly. No, I'm sure she...
Do a little china painting if you know what I mean.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's new. That's new on the soundboard too, Hannah, since you were here last. Yeah. So interesting. Yes, painting china. So it is in the early 1930s. Hannah pieced a grandmother's flower garden. We talked about that on the last show. Her first quilt and her last pieced quilt. Her artistic abilities showed through even in this first quilt. The color coordination is stunning. Yeah. Her next two quilts.
Hannah.
Yeah, amazing. I love the lotuses, these down here. That's my favorite part. Anyway, so Hannah was greatly inspired by Rose Kretzinger. We need to talk about Rose on the show at some point. A marvelous applique artist from Emporia, Kansas, whom she met around this time. She had no desire to copy any of Kretzinger's designs, but instead designed her own flower quilts. So yeah, Hannah designed, appliqued, and marked for quilting, but sent her tops out to be quilted. Unfortunately, the quilter's name was not recorded, and therefore proper recognition cannot be made. The quilting, however, complements Hannah's beautiful applique. There are 18 stitches to an inch. Woof! And let's see, the last thing is Hannah refused to let any of her quilts be shown in public. Whoa, because she was concerned someone might use her designs. Oh, well, that's a little, come on. Okay, I don't like that. I don't like that. I think that's weird. I mean,
that's a little bit much, but also Hannah had been through a lot.
She had been through a lot. M. Sujan says it's
so she wanted to, keep her quilts stowed away somewhere so people wouldn't rip her off. You know what?
Yeah.
She learned it.
Exactly. M. Sujan thinks it's beautiful. Everybody's really into it. Hey, sweet peas and taters. Hey, Al Briggs, Court Quilts, it's okay. Yeah. And Shauna Sows is here. So yeah. So I thought you'd like that, and it was an interesting story about this woman, this thrice married woman in 1910, right? Interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. So Nan, when I talk to you about textiles, and I'm talking to you about, come on the show, be on the show, let's talk about some stuff. I feel like you bring things to the conversation that I wouldn't think about as immediately, because quilts, it's Quilt Nerd, right? We talk about quilts and we talk about quilt adjacent things. And when I told you, I was like, I said, Pemberito wants us to talk about quilts in the Northwest, and so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a bunch of quilts together, and we can talk about them. And you had a couple ideas as well. What did you tell me as I was struggling with my little tech problem?
Oh, right. So Northwest Coast. The first thing I think about being I've always been interested in anthropology, cultural anthropology, and all that kind of stuff. So, Native American, indigenous artwork has always been something that's really interested me. Mm-hmm. Particularly plains artists or plains, like indigenous plains groups, because we were in Iowa and Wisconsin, so there we are. Mm-hmm. But the Northwest Coast from Washington and Oregon, and that all the way up to British Columbia and into Alaska have got this extraordinary textile tradition. A lot of the different groups there have got, it's not so much quilting, but weaving, for example, is huge. Blanket making, they have ceremonial and garment blankets. There's a whole, it's such a specific aesthetic. And I'm sure that we'll probably see it in some of the quilts that you're showing too. But so I just did some very cursory research on basically two things, and we'll keep it quick because it's not quilts, but sure. It's all to know. So two of the biggest, I guess the most common, or most what should I say? Common? That doesn't really. Definitive, right?
Definitive. Okay.
Most, indigenous craft work is weaving. Specifically, there's two kinds of chilkat and raven's tail weaving.
Interesting.
And chilkat in particular is known as one of the most complicated, complex, difficult weaving methods in the world. That's
crazy. And this is done in the Pacific Northwest?
Yes, all the way up to Alaska.
Wow.
So one chilkat blanket can take over a year to make. And they're usually made by women, historically and currently. And the groups that you'll see that produce these are Tlingit, the Haida, Tsimshian, and into British Columbia and into Alaska.
Wow.
And so the main thing about it, and I wish I had some pictures of chilkat. I should have sent them to you.
Yeah. No, you can, actually, if you texted them to me, I could put them up on the screen, which would be great.
Yeah, I'll do it in a second.
Yeah, sure.
So they use mountain goat wool for fibers, sometimes dog hair, and also hammered out cedar bark. They make their threads out of bark.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Yep. Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's that. I mean, flax, right? I was looking at how flax is made. I mean, it's not fun. You do not want to do that.
The amount of labor. Think about it for a second. The amount of labor involved in making a piece of bark soft enough to work with, first of all, and then also not to be all scratchy and horrible. They don't feel like burlap. I mean, it's it's much more than that.
Exactly.
So, and then you'll know there's one of the hallmarks of the style and also of the aesthetic is that I guess the visual language of these blankets and also different garments and wall hangings. It's used. This kind of weaving is used in a lot of different contexts for a lot of different purposes. They have the aesthetic language of this like broad cultural group is like lots of ovals and sort of U shapes and S curve forms. You know, if you've ever tried to weave something, even really, really fine weaving also often kind of looks a little bit pixelated. Like even the best Persian rug you've ever seen looks a little bit, you know, because there's angles. And these don't have that.
Tell me, how do you spell it again? How do you spell the weaving, the kind of weaving?
Oh, Chilkat. Chilkat.
Chilkat weaving. Okay. Hang on. I'm going to grab a picture of it right now.
Yeah, because really, because you got to see it to believe it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's amazing. Okay. Hang on one second.
Yeah. And generally the imagery that's used is like, they're not abstract, but they are highly stylized. You know, animals, figures from folklore, that kind of thing.
Yep. And it's interesting.
Clan totems.
Yep. Great. So yes, okay, that's that. I've got it right, don't I? Yeah, up on the screen.
I am. There's a little delay on my side.
Sure.
And the main thing too, the one thing that's of particular interest to anybody, especially quilters, especially because of, you know, the revivals of that quilting has undergone over the, you know, generations. In the 1990s, there were 6 total artisans who could still practice true Chilkat weaving. 6 in the world. That's it.
Wow.
And thanks to the teaching of one woman, her name was Jenny Thlunaut, Thlunaut, right?
Yeah.
She was a master weaver. She taught 2 other women.
Wow.
Anne Brown Elders and Clarissa Lampy Rizal.
Wow.
The classic style, and then through those 2 students of hers, they it's basically like, I guess, not single-handedly, double-handedly revived style. And so now there are more and more people are learning how to do this, and so the art form, like by the literal skin of its teeth, survives extinction.
That's crazy. And when did that happen? In the 90s? By the way, I put a picture of a person doing this weaving. I can't confirm. I don't think it's the woman you were just talking about, but there's this picture of this person doing this weaving. It's amazing. I mean.
Oh yeah, because it's not like it's on a loom. It's just hanging.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I guess it's a loom, but it's not what you think of when you think of like a, you know, typical with a shuttle and all that.
Right. Tani Joyce Fiber says one woman changes the world. Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying.
Incredible.
That's what I'm saying.
Incredible.
Like, you know, extraordinary. So, and then the other thing that I'll say less about, another very typical textile work that you'll see in that part of the world is button blankets.
Yes, thank you for saying that. So yes, tell me about button blankets, because the one I was just showing you, this woman, the button blanket quilt is what we were just looking at. So tell me about that.
Right. So button blankets. They're not used for beds. I keep siren going off by me.
Sure.
Yay, New York.
Yeah, New York, right.
Oh, and then my dog is now singing along with the siren.
That's Lou.
I'll wait.
That's Lou. Lou does that when a siren goes.
One more. Yes, what's up? I wish. Okay.
Oh my God! What's happened to this show? What's happening to the show?
I wish we could get this out of here.
I do too.
All right, shit. All right, you're good.
Lou. Wow.
Appreciate you. So button blankets in the, let's see, would be the mid-19th century. Hudson's Bay Company, like traders who were making it across the country, had with them all these felt blankets, usually like made of duffel fabric, I guess. So they're dark blue and red, and a very, you know, pretty typical color palette. So that the blankets were used as trade items, and so when different coastal tribal groups got them, they immediately went to town and did felt applique onto blankets, and then used little tiny mother of pearl buttons from either Italian shells. So they're used as wearable blankets. They don't go on beds. And really the only time they would ever be displayed in that way, like on a wall or something, would be during a funeral, you know, for a chief. But yeah, so button blankets are also super cool. Also have that same kind of like oval, snaky shaped kind of vibe that chill cat weaving stuff as well.
Yeah, and I just put up a picture of a Margaret Wood quilt. We met Margaret Wood. She's amazing. An indigenous quilt maker. I believe, let's see, I don't want to say, I'm pretty sure Cherokee Sioux. But you know what? If I don't know, I probably shouldn't say it, right? Steph, if you could check on Margaret Wood on her background, that'd be great, because I don't want to say it wrong, but I do want to show her work because Hannah, she does a lot of, she's a quilt maker. We got to meet her at QuiltCon. That was another show we got to go to together, and she had a show with Susan Hudson. There was an indigenous quilt maker exhibit, and she has these pearl beads, right? They're not buttons necessarily. Well, they're sort of like, they looked almost like sequins. They're mother of pearl. Yeah. Yeah, and this is from her dress series, and it's 1998. She was lovely. She was there. I couldn't believe it. I totally fangirled out. And we've looked at Margaret's work on the show, but it's interesting. Until you said that, I didn't think about her work. You know, because we didn't talk much about what you have to share right now, and so it's interesting. You're just making me think of all these different things off the cuff, right?
Mary, she's Navajo Seminole.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That doesn't northeast western to me, but
yeah. Right. Yeah. So very cool. Very cool. Well, Hannah, I love that. Thank you for looking that up because I mean, the weaving stuff, it's interesting. I mean, there are art quilters who do so much embellishing. They do embellishments. They do, there's so many different techniques that art quilters use these days that, you do kind of get. And I was talking to somebody who's jurying a big quilt show. She's a jurist for a big quilt show coming up. And we were talking about, the difference between quilt art, right? And fiber art and the art quilt, right? And we talked a lot about, and we will always talk about, our quilts art, right? Well, we know that they are, but the art establishment is not always so convinced. But so the Quilt Nerds, we talk about this a lot and parse out pieces of that argument or that discussion. But what is interesting, Hannah, is when you have a piece of textile art, right, that is partly quilted, partly woven, say, that has embellishment and embroidery, but 3 layers. I mean, this person I was talking to who's doing this show, being a juror for this show, a jurist, we were like, when is a thread painting kind of woven textile, ragged, asymmetrical, object not a quilt? When is it actually sort of not a quilt? And Stephanie's like, I mean, but Steph, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, is there textile art and quilts, right? Textile art that uses quilts. What do you think? What do you think?
This is the.
Yeah.
This is almost one of those. Don't get me started, Mary.
Yeah.
But
I know.
It's a fine line.
Yeah.
And I've when I was in art school, I had those discussions with my professors.
Mm-hmm.
About what's craft, what's art.
Right.
Where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for what purpose are you drawing the line? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly.
That's what I want to know. Is I think all quilts are textile art, but not all textile art is quilts. But
right.
Yeah, and I guess for the purposes of curation, I suppose one has to define one's terms. Mm-hmm. But then whole art versus craft thing, it has the stench of classicism and elitism about it, which I don't care for. And people just trying to be creative and make cool stuff. I don't know.
Right.
I'm also.
No, I mean, I agree too. I don't know. First of all, by the way, I wanted to say hi to Estra. Estra, I'm so glad that you're here. I'm seeing people come in, and it's I've never had 2 people on the show at once before, so it's very exciting to do that. But I saw somebody else come in, Clara, I think. Camille, hello, Camille. Thank you for coming. This is for you. Little champagne cork. So here's the problem, though, and this quote, by the way, this is a Northwest. He's in Oregon, I think. I'm going to read to you about this quote. It's by Patrick Dorman. It's cool, right? And it's got the buttons on it. So you see, I'm trying to do make you proud here. So, Yeah, Patrick Dorman made this quilt in 1987. It's called Revelation. It's 83 by 92 inches. But yeah, I mean, I kind of have, I don't know, I kind of have a like all are welcome, all quilts are art, you know, that's the sort of the tack I take. But if something is a quilt because it has 3 layers or even just 2, if that's all it is to define a quilt, then you start, I don't know. Oh, I sound like the cool police. I don't want to at all. But if you start to change the functionality of a quilt enough that you can't, I don't know, if you can't really, if it's more weaving than quilt, like, you get into a weird area. You start talking about it's textile art, right? I mean, it's like, oh, it's killing me because all are welcome, all quilts are good, right? But like, if it's a quilt show and it's mostly weaving in this piece, maybe it's not the right show for it, you know?
For sure. Well, I mean, for me, like, there's like, I remember back in the day, like, we have all these quilt books around the house when we were growing up, and so there was, we had like the art quilts. And like I think there was a book called that. In fact, we even looked at it on one of the other shows that we did. But
yeah.
But like when it gets to the point where it's like a note that you cannot, like, this would never go on a bed of any. I mean, even you could make a quilt and never intend it to go on a bed ever.
Definitely.
It's totally okay. It's
yes.
like this is for hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
But, there were some. I remember like seeing some like super 80s looking like art quilts that were, abstract. There was like funky shapes, and they were not. They were quilted, but to call them a quilt, I think would have been a stretch because, like, you can't wrap a baby up in this.
Right, but that's what defines a studio art quilt is a quilt that's made for the wall, not for the bed.
Right, but you could though. That's my point. Is that like
yes, right. If it's made of metal, you really couldn't sleep under it. Like, you can totally sleep under this quilt. It might be, the maker would be like, I'm going to kill you now, but it is it's quilty enough, right? Yeah.
But if you cut quilt shapes out of metal and you riveted or welded them together in 3 layers, it meets the definition. So this is where we get into these conversations.
Exactly.
I think Hannah made the point about for curatorial purposes or for jurying and judging, you really define those things.
Yeah.
But
and that would be
the rest of it's
that's a stunt quilt, and that's a whole.
That's a what quilt? What'd you say?
A stunt quilt.
A stunt quilt. Oh, well.
I love that.
You just said it was 3 layers stuck together, and that's what it did. They used rebar and rivets. We're like,
yeah.
Okay, like tool belt Sandy. Good.
Tool belt Sandy. I'm toast. Well, let me see what the chat is doing. The last time I was able to look at the chat, people were saying that, Hannah, many people's dogs also howl at sirens. So when the sirens go by,
I had never experienced it before, but it's delightful. It really is, and little kids on the street love it when he does it, and they're like,
I bet. I mean, it's like the coolest trick, like, how'd you teach your dog to do that? But he just did it, right? And Susan Armichael, hello, my dear. Susan says, textile art covers a lot of territory. It absolutely does. Wall hangings and utilitarian quilts, Gamer Granny is saying, these all count. Padma says, Katie Fowler paints all of her fabric just like a painter, which is her background, and then she quilts it. To me, she is a painter, but I think if it's quilted, it is a quilt. This is another piece by Patrick Dorman. It's called Amur River, A-M-U-R, Amur River, 89 by 67. It was made in 1984. It's at the Quilt Museum. And the quilts that we're looking at, if you're just joining us or you're maybe missed the top of the show, the quilts that we're looking at are from the Pacific Northwest because Pen Burrito wanted to take a look at some of those. There are lots of quilts, antique quilts that have been saved from pioneer days and so forth, and I have a couple of those. But I thought, as I was looking for the content for tonight, I don't know, I kept finding really interesting art quilts. What's that?
I love this one.
You love it? Good. Oh, wait, hold on. Now hang on one second. I got to tell you what Patrick Dorman said about Revelation. And of course, well, you know what? Of course you love this. This is like right up your alley. This is like your motif, Hannah.
Totally. It looks like Kyrgyz felt rug.
You know, yes, it does. And actually, what I have to read to you from Patrick, it completely ties into this quilt too, because he mentions this in what I have to share with you. So the James family collected this quilt and the last one. So the James family, Hannah, started the Quilt Museum in Lincoln. And so the Jameses wrote back when they did an exhibition some years ago. It says, we acquired Patrick's Revelation, the quilt we just saw, in 1989, a year after we'd added his Amour River, this one, to the collection. Right. Patrick had written to us saying, quote, there is something in me that would like Revelation to be in the same collection with Amour River. I know that my work would be respected and well cared for there, unquote. We were glad he entrusted us with this amazing quilt. These amazing quilts. Revelation, he described as a celebration of life's mystery, earth, air, fire, and water. This is like, I don't know, I feel like I've seen you draw things like this, Hannah.
On my arms, by the way, are this. So Amur River, that's even more, because I said Kyrgyz because that's like, people have seen those rugs. So this is Siberian. So the Amur River is in Siberia.
Really?
All the coils and swirlies that are on my arms and back are based on Siberian textiles. So that's why I love this quilt.
What? That is crazy.
Yeah. It's a damn shame we don't have a camera on me, because then I would show you. But
well, I think in the other two shows that we've done together, the thumbnail I put on the YouTube replay video, and the Twitch one too, has, you can see that. And hey, people should follow you on Instagram, Hannah. Amazon-esque. Yeah. So this is great. That's perfect. And by the way, we have a new sound cue on the soundboard. It's when people say something really smart, and I told you I was going to surprise you with it. So here's what. So you knew the Amour River, right? You knew. So that's pretty smart. So here's what you get.
That's what I do. I invented Post-its.
Yeah, you invented Post-its. All right. So this is the quilt by Patrick Dorman, and we have buttons. Hannah, you have taught me about the buttons. I mean, this quilt is great. Look at this quilt. And to me, like, there's no question that this is, it's an art quilt, right? Like, of course, it's embellished. Yeah. It's not symmetrical, right? It's got this specific shape to it, and it's just 1,000%. I think it belongs in a quilt show, right? I believe it does. Estra, by the way, thought the quilt was astonishingly beautiful. I think you were talking about Revelation.
Wait, the previous Amur?
Yeah, I think so. Well,
the palette, those are like, that's that sort of moody jewel tone color palette, like all of that's all entirely my jam.
Yeah, totally.
I'm scrambling a chopper after we finish this show to conduct a heist and obtain that quilt for myself. Don't tell anybody I said that.
You heard it here first. Yes, you were not live on the internet or anything. It's like totally cool. No. Yeah, it's totally cool. So, hey, Kenny, by the way. Kenny says, by the way, the difference between art and craft is about $1,500. That's great. That's really good. And Linda was wondering if those were cowrie shells on that other quilt we were looking at. And I am not sure. I actually want to look at that quilt again before we move on from Patrick Dorman, because I read something in that text just now that I looked at that really blew me away, and I want to look at it. It's a detail that I didn't see, so we can all look at that together. But these are, they're buttons. Just the other day we were talking about QuiltCon. I think it was in the VIP chat. Sorry, in the VIP for the Tier 2 and Tier 3 subscribers that do a special thing each month. And I think we were talking about how one of the quilts at QuiltCon, Hannah, this year that won a big award had buttons on it. And it wasn't in this style at all. There was no reference to this sort of part of the world, I don't think. But it was interesting to see an embellished quilt at a modern quilt show. And I don't know, it's interesting to see like how the modern quilt style, which is very sparse or it's minimalist and so forth, how they start to change, Nan, because it's been a while that they've been doing their specific aesthetic, and they have defined a specific aesthetic, but people, true artists just can't stay put, right? So they'll probably start doing different things. So we might see more of this kind of thing coming up in the quilt world in the next years. I don't know.
I was not aware that the Modern Quilt Guild had like a stated aesthetic.
Oh, well, maybe the next time you're on the show, we can talk about that. Yes.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because if I had to guess, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I bet modern quilts use all kinds of embellishment that wouldn't have flown even 30 years ago.
Oh.
So this is news to me.
Yes, there's so much news.
The modern quilt guild's definition is a whole thing.
And in fact, Steph, will you read it? It's not. I mean, it was long for a little while, but is it still pretty long?
Oh gosh, I have to find it.
Yeah.
Well, if I could read it over the cake break.
Over the cake break, yeah. Maybe, and Hannah, you should. Yeah, that's interesting that you didn't even know that there's a whole written, stated aesthetic that they adhere to most of the time.
I'll read it.
Yeah.
I'll have to give that a thing.
Yeah. So I want to just say, and then we'll move on. But about this quilt, Revelation, he said. So the Jameses say, we were glad he entrusted us with this amazing quilt, which he describes as a celebration of life's mystery. Earth, air, fire, and water are surrounded by images marking the passage of time, rising and setting sun, seasons, and moon cycles. He's put his shadow floating over all and encircled everything with a border of buttons and net. Quote, the mystery spirit which binds the cosmos, unquote. We did not know that there are 22 tracks of wild animals hidden in the quilting until he sent us a sketch of them. How cool is that? There's all these little secret tracks. They're making tracks. And Court Quilts, I saw your comment about, if quilting was a male pastime,
Yes.
would it be considered valuable art? Like, I gotta say, it seems like that's a fair question. Hope's dogs also howl, Hannah. When the phone rings, Hope says that she has dogs that howl. Yeah. So here's part of the theme that I found when I was looking at these art quilts, or these quilts from the Northwest, from that region. There was a lot of spirituality, and I didn't go searching for, specific quilts to show. I was looking at art quilts, and I was looking for, obviously this region of the country. But, just like we saw with Patrick Dorman, that's some heavy, sort of metaphysical stuff, that some subject matter that he was contending with had that going on, for it, had it going on. So I kept finding that to be true in quilts from this region. Contemporary quilts, right? So there's this one, and I mean, when I tell you the name of the person who made this quilt, I think you're going to smile. Toot Reed. Toot.
Toot Reed?
Yeah, Toot. T-O-O-T. Toot Reed. And Reed is R-E-I-D.
Jazz musician.
Yeah, Toot Reed, exactly. So, and this is cool. I mean, I feel like one of the things I love about Quilt Nerd is, I never want to be, a show that's like just focused on art quilts or just focused on traditional quilts, just focused on seeing quilts in art galleries, like Sanford Biggers, I love, but I don't just I want to look at everything. And what I hope happens because of that is we learn more and we have a dynamic program to watch and do together. But also I want people to be inspired. If you're a quilt maker, the more stuff you look at, I mean, I think the more you can find in your own quilting practice, the direction you want to go in. And like, I look at these fabrics and I think like, wow, like this is a quilt with very, very ornate fabrics in it. These are dense prints, very dense, right? You see that? I mean, I think this, now that I've gotten this close, I think that's a Christmas print. Right here. That's hollyberries. That's like a novelty Christmas print. Right? And so this is a person, so Toot, I just wish the person's last name was McGee, Toot McGee. Anyway, it just sounds great. So this person is using golds and red and purple, and it's just this wall of color, if you will. And I think that's so interesting. And it's so different. I mean, talking about the modern quilt guild, I mean, there couldn't be anything less modern quilt guild probably about this quilt. It is just full of pattern. It is pattern and decoration. It kind of makes me think of the pattern and decoration movement, the artistic sort of movement there, Miriam Shapiro and everything. But anyway, yeah, there's this cross.
Miss Elaine is totally right. It is totally pumpkin spice and falling leaves.
Pumpkin spice and falling leaves. You know what? The fall people, it's going to be your time so soon.
I'm here for it. I'm so here for it. I'm
Good.
so excited.
I know, me too. You're a pumpkin spice latte kind of person.
I'm not gonna lie. You know what? I like them. I will drink. I mean, I just try and keep the sugar down. So like at least once a year, I get a PSL, and I have no shame about it whatsoever. I do the same thing in spring with an apple martini.
Oh, for heaven's sake! Really? An apple martini?
Yep.
Just like one to like bring spring,
to herald the beginning of spring and like outdoor day drinking. I totally get an apple martini, and I sip it with great relish.
That's a very ceremonial. Speaking of metaphysical sort of, I just picture you sort of preparing the glass, chilling the martini glass, shaking the thing, and yes.
Measuring out the apple pucker with my.
Oh God, apple pucker. Sometime, Hannah, what we should do on the show is we should just do a get to know the Fons sisters. Because we really have stories. Maybe we do an AMA. It's not a normal Quilt Nerd show. It's it's a separate show. It comes on at midnight, and we just talk about the good old days. Am I right?
Yeah. But to speak on this quilt.
Yes, please. Yes.
If we can direct the cruise ship back toward what people are coming here for.
Yes.
Because the last time that when you were here in New York, the second one that we did, it was tangent upon tangent, and I'm like, I feel like I went on huge tangents. Anyway, so all I'm going to say about this quilt, what I think is fascinating and impressive, with all these incredibly dense, busy prints, the unified goal of the quilt itself is, minimal is maybe not the word, but it's, the eye is not. It's not busy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really like it.
Yeah, I do too. I really do too. And what Toot has to say, by the way, Toot is in Tacoma, Washington, and this is called Madre de Deus. Madre de Deus. Cotton, rayon, silk, cotton batting. It's machine pieced, it's hand appliqued and hand quilted. And here's what Toot says. Madre de Deus is one in a series based on a trip I made to Portugal. It was inspired by a small church that is heavily encrusted with tile and gilded woodwork. I was overwhelmed with the powerful sense of belief I felt in this space, and that is what Madre de Deus is about. Pretty cool, right? This quilt is also by Toot. It's also by Toot. And it is called 17.
Toots?
Yeah, this is Toots.
It's Toots.
It's Toots? Oh, yeah, it's Toots. It's not Toot.
I don't know.
It's not Toot. Thank you for that. Thank you for being my fact checker. This is really interesting too. I mean, this thread, right? All of this. Yeah, it's great. I thought maybe I had something from Toots about that one, but I'm not sure. I might. I'll probably. Oh, it'll come to me. It'll come back to me. But anyway, so yeah, these kind of. I don't know, just sort of layered. There's just quilts with lots of meaning, lots of layered meaning. And so this is a different artist, Helen Bitar. And I couldn't find much about Helen Bitar. If other people can find these things, like I am always here for it. I would love if someone knows about Helen Bitar, it's Bitar. It'd be wonderful to know more about her. This quilt was made in 1969, okay? And Bitar is out in Portland. Yes, or at least she was, and that's the thing. I don't know that much about her, but 1969. That's pretty early, right? For some of this quilt art to be happening, right? Hannah, what does this quilt say to you? Like, what is your impression of this quilt? And I wish I could tell you more about it. It's at the Racine Art Museum. I can tell you that now. But yes, talk to me. What do you see?
To me, it is reminiscent of the super ornate ribbon skirts that used to fit like Mexican folkwear, sort of ornaments. It strikes me as it reminds me of Mexico.
Reminds you of Mexico. Interesting.
And festival garments that ladies wear.
Yeah. Elle Riggs is she's working with the shiny fabric, very slippery. Yeah.
Oh, so slippery. I was thinking, what a pain in the ass that must have been to get to hold together.
Yep, exactly. And I don't know, that polyester batting, I feel that it's polyester in there. That really is a feat, though, this border, I mean, the border is so, that's tiny pieces, really. I mean, it's, let me see, I don't have measurements on it. There just wasn't much about her, but yeah, it's pretty impressive. And talk about dense pattern. We have this down here too. I don't know. It seemed it does this quilt as well. Of course, I had many to choose from to show tonight, but like this quilt as well. There are layers to it. It seems like, I mean, this isn't a mandala right in the middle. I don't think so, right? But there's this. It seems like maybe an Indian temple kind of situation. I mean, there's these layers of meaning, almost like a sand painting or something. Anyway, and I just kept finding that in these quilts that came out of the Northwest, contemporary quilts that came out of the Northwest. This is Helen Vitar. It's called Womb Wall, WOMB, Womb Wall. It's 39 by 21. And this is corduroy. And let's see, do I have a year? I mean, it's been a while since she made this, right? It's quilted, with that blue corduroy. I mean, put a 1 in the chat if you've ever made a quilt with corduroy. It's not that strange. People make breechy quilts and quilts out of old clothes and things. I've definitely seen a lot of quilts made with corduroy. And then the G's Ben quilters, when they were doing work for Sears, it was, the Freedom Quilting Bee. When the Freedom Quilting Bee quilters were doing work for Sears Roebuck, I mean, Sears sent them, corduroy to use in their quilts at that time. It's very interesting. Yeah. And yeah, I'm sure this was made around the same time. So it's, this, you can't sleep under this, right? I mean, no, sorry, you wouldn't. You probably wouldn't. I don't have a size for it, but you can sort of tell by the tacks up at the top. This is not a large piece. This is not a huge quilt, right? It's small. It's meant for the wall. And to me, I mean, I definitely think it's a quilt.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. And then there's a poster. This is the detailed shot of actually I have the poster here. Look, this Seattle Small Business, a Powerful Force. This is Helen Vitar, and it's a poster that is commemorating the Mount St. Helens explosion. So it's a poster of, this quilt that she made. And I found it on Etsy, and you know what? I bought it. I bought it today. It was $20, and I was like, oh my God. So I bought it. When I get it, I will do an unboxing on the show and show it to you. But it's fabulous. And Eric's from Seattle. So when I get it, I'm going to frame it. And it will be this piece of feminist Seattle art of a quilt. It's like Homer buying the bowling ball for Marge for Christmas. I'm like, look at this wonderful thing that I got you about Seattle and Mount St. Helens. Yeah. Hey, Padma, I'm telling you.
That's what I do. I invented Post-its.
It's true. Yeah, so $20, I know. With shipping, it was a little more. Hannah, I just thought you'd like this. I just have a couple more for you. And then we're going to take a break, everybody. And when we come back, we're going to do a game. We're going to do the Hannah Fons judges if it's hot or not. I'm going to show a series of quilts. And it is not like a judgment call like, this quilt is good or this quilt is not good. It's not about that. It's about what does my sister think about, this quilt? What does she think about this quilt? I want to know if Hannah thinks it's hot or not, So that's what we're going to do when we come back from the break. We're going to talk about Hannah's feelings, basically.
I was under the impression that my feelings would not be on display. Now I feel, it'll be fine, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's going to be fine. You're going to like it.
It's feelings or math, one or the other, you pick.
Oh my God, feelings by far then. Jeez.
Feelings or math. I like that. Okay, so this quilt, I just thought you'd like it, Nan. I mean,
I do. You're batting 1,000 on the quilts. I will say the last one, Wool Wall, I think of the ones I'm like,
yeah.
But this one's dope.
And the last ones were my favorite. Like, we are very similar, and yet we are very different. Yeah. So this is by Midge Hoffman, and she lives in Coburg, Oregon. It's called Fall into Winter, and it's right, but it's small. It's 29 by 36.
Oh my gosh, so small.
I know, it's so small. SMOL. It's small.
Oh, yes, small.
Yeah. So it's Dupioni silk.
Ooh.
I know, isn't that wonderful?
Maybe that's why it's so small.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, I'm good. I've done a very good job. I am going to stop making, yes, I'm going to stop making this quilt now. It's very good. Goodbye. It's hand painted and stenciled, fused, machine stitched, and machine quilted. And here's what Midge Hoffman has to say about this piece. Quote, my recent studio work focuses on recurring graphic images and patterns in nature. By the way, pause, this was made in 1996, and this is from the Vision San Diego quilt show, or quilt exhibition, so this is, 20 years ago, a little more than that. So, back to Midge. Quote, these are fractured. No, I'm going back. I randomly paint, stamp, and stencil silk fabrics with spheres, spirals, snowflakes, crescents, and leaf and floral patterns. These are fractured by cutting up the fabrics and restructuring the forms into a new pattern, fusing and stitching the fabric to a backing. Sometimes life seems fractured. Sometimes, if we look closely, we see that life is actually made of a few basic swirling themes intrinsically woven together, seeking balance and order in pattern and structure. Fall into winter celebrates the change in seasons, the dark, cold sparkle of winter that descends onto the forest, gradually transforming the season before it.
Wow.
I think that gets a little quilt church music. That's beautiful. Boy, when you have an artist, I mean, I went to art school, right? I have this joke, Hannah, that like anytime I'm like, I went to art school, or I went to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. Like, you don't want to be that guy. It's like, well, when I was at art school, at the School of the Art Institute, but I did go there, right? But when I was there, I mean, I really met a lot of, because I was there for writing and textile, like history and stuff. But I mean, I was with painters, right? I was with photographers. And like, to have an artist be able to really articulate what their art is and what it means, that's a gift, man.
Sure. Having only very recently been involved in writing artist statements about, like, and to have it like an elevator pitch basically about like what your stuff is about.
Yep.
It's really hard, and it's hard to have it be succinct and meaningful, and also not to sound like a dick.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know the last time we did a show? I have to put, YouTube makes you click on things before you publish a video. Does it have profanity or like excessive profanity, or do you talk about drug use? Are there violent images in your stream? And it's real easy for me to fill out that little online form because like nothing I do has like violent imagery in it. But because you said weed like several times on the last show, I like ticked like recreational drug use. No, it's totally fine. I definitely didn't need to click that box because it's totally fine. But it was really funny that I had to think about it. I was like, I think Hannah talked about weed like 2 times.
I totally did.
Oh no. It was pretty funny.
That's this.
I know.
Raising the bar. It's all about class.
We're
like
raising
you
the bar.
To your wholesome show. Just like,
Exactly.
cousin.
Yeah. So I want to show one traditional quilt, and I've got a couple others, but I'm going to keep it pushing here. I wanted to show this one. This is a traditional quilt from Oregon, and this is in Treasures in the Trunk. So it's talking about the Oregon Trail, quilts along the Oregon Trail, and I wanted to show it because. Yeah, here's what the author has to say about it. It's Mary Bywater Cross wrote Treasures in the Trunk. And Mary says of this quilt, which was made in 1860, by the way. I'm going to zoom in on it. The quilting, I love the quilting on this. It's unusual to me. Like, I'm going to zoom in on this right here. It's like Baptist fan, but not. It's different. It's not. It's different. I don't know. It really caught my eye for that reason, and also because of what we know about it. Okay, so we know Emma Wagner Geisy made this. Her year over the Oregon Trail was 1853. She was the only woman in a party of 10. Yeah, super cool, right? She settled in Willapa, Washington Territory. Oh my God, Hannah, there's a kitty. There's a kitty sewing, and that means that somebody just resubscribed or somebody gave a gift membership. It was Estra. Estra, you gave a gift membership to Kate Who Cooks. Kate Who Cooks, I'm glad you're here. I hope that you'll stick around and enjoy Quilt Nerd as a subscriber, because you just got a gift subscription. And so you can use all the emotes, and you'll be entered in for all the giveaways. We give away things every month. We're giving away a quilt puzzle, a really, really good quilt puzzle this month. Hannah, do you remember when Mom helped get that reconciliation quilt puzzle thing done? Do you remember that? You might not. I don't know. We're giving away one of those. Yeah.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, it's really good. Courtesy of one of the quilt nerds in Hicks. Anyway, so welcome, Kate Who Cooks. Maybe
you did a show from a bar. I just saw that comment.
I did a show from a bar. Oh yeah, we did at QuiltCon. We did.
Yeah.
We should do that again. We should definitely do it again. Okay, so this wool quilt. Let me get back to this. So this wool quilt is an outstanding example of life within the communal society in Marion County of the Willamette Valley between 1855 and 1877. The pieced quilt of 8 3/4 inch blocks, big, right, is made of a woolen fabric totally produced in the communal society.
Wow.
Right? And so you have this weaving, right? I mean, oh my God. It all comes
farm to bed.
farm
to bed frame.
From farm to bed frame. I like that. So that's actually quite clever, Hannah. That's very good. Instead of farm to table, farm to bed. The wool for fabric and bat was from sheep raised by the colony. The rich colors were natural dyes of black, red from madder root, and green from the area's peach leaves.
Wow.
Right? It's cool, right?
Lord, yeah, it's just from literal scratch. It gets no more from scratch than this.
It is. They're scratching out the life that they're making, in the ground. They're scratching it up. And here we go. So I hadn't read this. The quilting pattern is a unique arrangement, a possible variation on the traditional elbow or fan. I've never heard it called the elbow. That's interesting. The parallel lines come together, forming a deep V shape. You know what I can do? I'm gonna spin it. Don't get dizzy, but I'm gonna do it one more time. Okay, yeah, because this is kind of an interesting way to look at this. A V shape. Mm-hmm. The 8 1/2 inch border has a zigzag arrangement of straight lines placed 1 1/4 inch apart. The quilt is marked with the cross-stitched initials CG in the same quilting thread. Its casual placement suggests perhaps a laundry marking needed for purposes of doing communal laundry. What? Of course, that's here it is CG. That is crazy. I have never thought about labeling, people who are doing laundry in a communal society having to, stitch their name into it. It's like stitching your name into your underpants when you go out to summer camp. That's fascinating. Isn't that great? We see the coolest stuff on this show. Yeah. Pemberito is it's very asymmetrical, hitting the bumps along the Oregon Trail and not caring about things lining up anymore. I dig it. That's great. That's great. Well, Pem, I am so glad. Oh, yeah. Dee Marie asked if you knew, Hannah, about the gin booth at the festival I was at in Birmingham. The quilt festival, the biggest quilt show in Europe. We were just there a couple weeks ago. And they have a gin booth in the convention center. I mean, at the quilt show, there's a gin booth. And a friend of mine, Marianne Tea Cake, one of the quilt nerds, says that there's always liquor in conventions in the UK. Always. There's always. But there's never in the States. And that's a problem.
I'm not going back to QuiltCon until they get a gin booth.
There you go. I'm not going to go either until they get a gin booth. Hey, Mimi Quilt. Well, Pam, I hope that you enjoyed the segment on quilts from the Northwest. And when people do the content director thing and they request a topic, I feel so lucky because I get to take that idea and see what's my angle, Because, for example, on the last show we did, I'm going to get big here again before we take a break. On the last show I talked about grandmother's flower garden quilts, and it's you can talk about a kind of quilt or you can talk about quilts from a particular region, but my editorial brain is okay, but what about them? Like some topics are just too broad. Not that you gave me a too broad of a topic, but just, for example, if you have a really broad topic, as an editor, as a writer, it's okay, what's your angle? What are you going to say about this thing, You could say our angle on quilts, every single episode, every single segment is a different angle on looking at quilts, right? And so when I was thinking about quilts in the Northwest, I could do, traditional quilts the whole whole segment, or I could do a blend. But I really focused on more on those art quilts, and there are other many other things I could show you. But I would try to keep things fairly concise. And Hannah, I don't want to wear you out because I want to have you on, like each month. We talked about this.
Yeah, totes.
And one day you're going to be on the camera, like moving around instead of just the Nan cam with the
Just the Nan cam.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, Fem, good job. Great topic. Content director success, I would say. And we're going to take a break. Stephanie, I'm going to hand it over to you, and I'm going to get a thing, and then when we come back, we'll do the hot or not game. Yeah?
Oh my god. So yeah.
Okay. Hannah, you're doing great. You're doing really good.
Alrighty.
Okay. All right.
Yay! Cake break.
Ooh. Oh, I'm still on the camera. I better hang on one second. Okay.
All right. I think I got a little bit of a delay.
Can I talk? Am I on? I'm not on.
Yeah, you are. Sorry. I'm leaving.
And I cussed again. All right, I'm gonna mute.
It's totally fine. So you guys are on fire tonight. I've been watching the chat, and there's some very scampy behavior going on. I love it. So I pulled up the I think it's the most recent one, the modern quilt guild definition. I'll read that when Hannah and Mary come back, so that everybody can be on the same page. But I'm going to use the cake break today, as I did last time, to do our PBS support drive brand of asking you to subscribe. We have, and for those of you, our OG nerds, good time to go get a drink, because you probably heard this spiel a million times. But for those of you that are joining us either on YouTube or Facebook, or have maybe migrated over to Twitch, you kind of heard at the top of the show, Mary sort of talked about what we do here. But we're really excited to have you here, and that's why Mary wanted to do streaming to all of the different platforms. But the real party is here on Twitch. So if you want to be involved in the chat, your chats on Facebook and YouTube do eventually show up over here. You might see them in the scroll, but it's not real fast. So if you want to be over here, like really talking to folks, Twitch is the place to be. And what you need to know about Twitch is it was originally a platform for gamers, but non-gamers have started to come on board here and sort of take things over. So it's really exciting. Mary is one of the pioneers over here doing non-gaming content. But once you're over here, you can subscribe. And if you have a Amazon Prime, you can actually subscribe for free. But what your subscription gets you is no ads. I noticed somebody was complaining about the ads earlier. Bummer, ads. So that's why you definitely want to subscribe. But also with subscriptions, you get the very cool emotes that you can use depending on which tier of subscription you have. You are entered into the giveaways that we do every month. And I want to say this month, did we do 2 this month? I guess we did the anniversary show giveaways. I keep thinking about that. That was a week-long thing. So that was an opportunity for the folks that are members that subscribe. They all got into those cool drawings. And last but not least is the disco, which if you're a gamer, you might recognize Discord, but we think that Discord sounds kind of yucky, so we call it the disco, and it's the great place to go between shows to talk with all the people that you see here now watching the show. So that is my spiel. The reason why I am asking you to support Quilt Nerd is to allow Mary and us, her helpers, her wranglers, do more cool stuff for you guys. We've kind of got some really neat things that we want to send Mary out into the world, but it does take a little bit of fundage. So that's why supporting the show gets really cool content. And of course, Mary's lucky to have a sibling like Hannah, who she probably doesn't have to pay, but I'm not sure. I don't know, Hannah. You might have to be paid for this. I don't know. But just kidding. But yeah, so as exciting things, Mary can keep doing really cool stuff. So I will end that spiel. Oh, before I forget, merch. Definitely get your merch. For those of you that don't know, we have, I'm putting the link in the chat. We have some very cool merch over on Threadless. And so turkey red, antimony, poison green, and double pink t-shirts. And then we've kind of talked about, it's sort of like the Quilt Nerd secret handshake. If you see somebody in one of those t-shirts out in the world, only quilters, only true nerdy quilters would know what those mean. So definitely go over there, get some merch. I'm actually gonna order my poison green t-shirt. And I think there's sweatshirts over there too. Getting to be the pumpkin latte season, you wanna have your poison green sweatshirt too. So, all right, so I've given you all of the PBS support the show drive kind of stuff. Now, I think Hannah and Mary are back, and I can read the definition of a modern quilt.
Great.
Are you ready for this, Hannah?
Yes. Let's hear it.
I noticed there was a couple people that were like, I think it's bullshit. I'm just going to put it out there.
Really? Oh, wow. Yeah. Controversy sometimes precedes them,
yeah,
right?
And Mary, correct me if I don't have the right one, but I think this is the most recent one. They say modern quilts are primarily functional and inspired by modern design. Modern quilters work in different styles and define modern quilting in different ways, but several characteristics often appear which may help identify a modern quilt. These include, but are not limited to, use of bold colors and prints, high contrast and graphic areas of solid colors, improvisational piecing, minimalism, expansive negative space, and alternate grid work. Modern traditionalism, or the updating of classic quilt designs, is also often seen in modern quilting. So there you have it. Did that help you? I'm not here to slam the Modern Quilt Guild at all, because as we said, you have to kind of define things when you're talking about jurying and judging and curating. This one has given me a lot of grief, though, because I'll be honest, I do make bed-sized quilts, but they are not necessarily modern quilts, but they're definitely not traditional quilts. So I don't know. I don't fit in there, is what I'm saying. So,
I mean, as we were reading that and we're thinking about it, like, you know, when you, like, there's certain things that define like a, you know, like romanticism, you know, in paint, for example. You know, that's a specific, it's a like a definable aesthetic. So I guess the fact that it's like, maybe what threw me off is that it's like a quilt guild, and it's like, well, if you want to sit with us, you have to, like, you know, adhere to these particular standards that we've decided, or like this.
Yeah, right.
If you're trying to just, if the whole thing is that all they're trying to do is articulate it as an aesthetic. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just sort of the I guess the clubbiness of like a guild, and like you have to. Yeah, maybe that's wrong. I don't know.
No, it's yeah. I mean, something I've figured out with this show, Hannah, as we've gone on, is not this episode, but overall over time, is like I'm kind of staying out of the 21st century. Like, I don't want to go there. we talk about, you know, the 20th century, the 19th century, and, you know, prior to that, because, you know, partly because, you know, the stuff that's being made today, you know, it gets press. Not everything, right? Not everything. So we want to shine light on stuff that isn't getting press, because, you know, we're not the press, but we're media. We're media. So we do what we can there, and talking about art and things, yes. But in terms of like the quilt world or the quilt system, you know, it's dangerous to even kind of have this conversation. I mean, not because something's going to happen to anybody, but I mean, it's a very controversial thing, you know. It's a controversial thing about what defines this genre of quilt. We talked about it earlier tonight about the difference between, you know, art quilts or textile art, whatever. But in particular, you know, the Modern Quilt Guild, which is, how old is it now? I mean, it's like, I don't know, 12, well, I don't know, 10-ish.
Was it 2008, 2009?
Yeah, exactly.
I can't remember.
Yeah, and so it's, you know, it's, I said it before, I think on the show, that like it's the institution now. Like before, they were the crazy kids, right? They were the crazy kids who came in and disrupted everything. But at this point, I mean, I felt it at QuiltCon this year. I was like, oh, this is the quilt world. This is it. You know, the generation has shifted now. And speaking of the generation shifting, Mom is here. Mary Fons slid into the chat, everybody. She slid into the chat. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
How's it going? I just looked down and I saw somebody say, "Hey, Mom." And I thought it could be our mom. And it is. Yeah. The media asked, what does modern quilt mean? And so they had to come up with something as the definition. It took a while for them to figure it out. It's true. It's, and that fair enough, right? But it's interesting to see, to talk about the modern quilt guild definition in relation to what we were talking about tonight. It's like, if you don't define what it is, somebody said that about the Catholic Church once, and I remember that. It was like, well, if the Catholic Church keeps changing their rules, have whatever opinion you want to have about it. But if the Catholic Church allows this, and then they allow this, and then they change this, is it still the Catholic Church, right? I mean, you can see what I mean, right? It's a very interesting discussion. All hail, Esther says, all hail Mama Fons. You know what? We can do that. Speaking of church, hailing things. Mom, how are you? By the way, I mean, it's such an interesting conversation about the Modern Quilt Guild. I want to read Jay Denster's comment because I want to know what you have to say. I just think, Jay Denster says, I just think with modern quilters, what modern quilters are doing is already changing. And what happens when prints are suddenly all in again? And then the modern all solid aesthetic feels as dated as the mauve and teal of the late 80s. Well, it's just fascinating. Tani's like, if there's a rule, I instantly get uncomfortable. I've said for a little while, I think Mom, you and I might have talked about this, but fashions change, hemlines go up, hemlines go down, and color palettes change. I mean, look at the house, the country craft style that Hannah and I, knew in our youth, right? The country home style, gave way to the minimalist sort of crate and barrel thing. I mean, depending on where you are, and the cities kind of sometimes lead the way on some of that stuff. But no matter what, styles come and go. And so the quilts, Hannah, of our youth that we saw, the hunter green, the orange, hunter green and like burgundy and mauve, all that Laura Ashley stuff, chintz and little. It's kind of the cottagecore thing that people are doing now, and it's like yes, shabby chic. Rachel Ashwell, shabby chic. So the quilts looked like that, and there were lots of dust ruffles and things, and it was very busy. If it was one thing, it seemed like a lot of that stuff was very busy, and so then comes the cleaner lines of the modern quilt guild, right? They've got to take it back. They don't want to make the quilts their mothers made, so they do this different style. Well, the modern quilt guild people, those sort of core people, are getting older. I mean, I'm not a modern quilt person, but I'm 43. I don't have kids, but a lot of these people do, so they're getting older, and so it has become the institution, I think. And so what kind of quilts is the next generation going to make? And I think it'll be busy. Of course it will be. Crazy quilts they were ridiculously ornate, right? And all these these scrap quilts, I think we're going to swing absolutely in that direction. So Jay Denster, the reason I wanted to kind of expounded on that is because I think you're absolutely right. I think the next wave of quilt style, of course there's always mavericks, people who, do different things, who don't follow the beat of the drum, whatever, or they follow their own beat of their own drum, but there are always people who don't follow that stuff. But en masse, we will have very, very busy quilts. We just will within, 10 years tops. And I also think that the desire to reduce fabric consumption, to reuse.
Sustainability.
Thank you. That's it, Hannah.
Sustainable and crazy, chopping up your old, all those shine fits you unboxed. And
yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Or whatever. And well, good luck on that. That'll be about as much fun as that Chinese silk stuff. The Chinese silk painting. But it's true. I mean, the more if you're using clothes to make quilts, you don't have 8 yards of that shirt that you wore once. You don't have, so you have to have scraps. You won't have as much fabric of one kind. So you have to use, and that makes a busy quilt, right? So it's just very interesting stuff. So Word and Bird Nerd, I'm reading it. We're going to go on with the game, but I'm reading a paper now by Maren Hansen titled Modern Yet Anti-Modern, Two Sides of Late 19th and Early 20th Century Quilt Making. Well,
that's what I do. I invented Post-its.
That's a very nerdy thing for you to do, Word and Bird Nerd. Okay, Hannah, we are going to play a game. Mom, you and I, we had a little round of this game before. I'm going to play Hot or Not. with Hannah. I'm going to show some. They're older. They're from. They're not modern quilts. We should do that sometime. Except we can't because we'll get in trouble and someone will be like, Mary Fons, she didn't like my quilt. She's so mean. Okay, so
they'll throw their notions at you.
oh yeah. They'll throw their notions in their Twitter accounts or something. Okay, so here's some quilts, Hannah, and I want you to just give me your you get the floor. Okay, I'm gonna let you. I've had my little monologue now, and I'm gonna give you the floor. I'm gonna just tell you a little bit about this quilt, maybe, or I'm just gonna ask you, what do you think? Is it hot or not?
Okay, so second delay on my end.
Oh yeah, that's right. We can't go rapid fire. We can't do rapid fire.
I see it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So what do you want? Initial? You want initial like knee jerk, hot or not, and then defend it?
Here's why I think this game is fun, at least for me, is I love your brain. You're so smart, and you say great things, and you're funny, and you're a dork. And so I just want to hear you talk about quilts, basically. So, like, what's the criteria? Like, hot or not? Like, would I want to, like, make love under it, you know? Would I want to, like, bring it into my home? I know, that's gross, but, I mean, that's...
Never say it that way, ever.
Well, it was... Okay, never mind. That's true, you would never say that. So, just, do you like it? We could make it even simpler, but hot or not's catchy.
Not really.
Okay.
I think it's technically impressive, but it looks like a Qbert game from the 80s.
Right.
And, it makes me uneasy in some way.
Really?
It makes me uneasy. Can't really say why. Don't care for it. Don't particularly like the colors. I think the geometry is impressive. Like, no notes on the execution, but no, don't like it. Not hot.
Not hot. It gets a... Doesn't like. Oh, actually, that's from the Princess Bride. That.
Yeah,
Boo,
of course.
Buttercup. But actually, I think instead of that, because that seems pretty mean, I'll just do this sound effect if you don't like it, Hannah. You zap it.
Yeah,
you don't like it. Okay, you zap it. All right.
Yeah,
so.
Estref ABC. That person said I'm dating myself. It reminds me of Qbert. That's exactly what I thought too. So.
There you
we'll
go.
Be together. You
got it. You're with her. Okay. This quilt is from the 19th century. This next one, and it is, I don't know much about it. It's by an artist or a maker once known. I can zoom in for you a little bit. But yeah, your thoughts, your general thoughts.
If the color scheme, I think a part of it, there's an obsessiveness, sort of like an obsessive quality about like the lines and all that stuff. So, but now we're back to the delay. So there's a new quilt in front of me.
Yes.
I like it.
You like it? You like this one?
Yes.
Okay. I have an idea. I have an idea how to deal with the delay. I got this. You like this? Okay. And to me, this seems very, it's pretty busy. There's a very interesting use of this striped pattern inside here. But is it the colors? Like, what?
Well, as a matter of fact, I don't really love the colors, but I like the quilt.
Yeah.
The other one's like I like the quilt, but I didn't like the colors. Is I don't like the colors, but I like the quilt.
Yep.
Yeah, it's got kind of a stained glassy kind of thing going.
Mm-hmm.
It's architectural sort of thing, a foot, girders, and the thing. I don't know. I like it. I
like it. Okay, so we could say from Hannah. Sorry. That high point is really something. Susan Armichael pointed out that she likes the border even more than the blocks. That diamond border, almost like a harlequin kind of thing. Something, and I like it too. I think it's really neat. It's actually really great. That border is great. It's just one block, right? It's this elongated diamond, and it's just reversed back and forth. I think that looks pretty awesome.
What's going on? What is the underneath the sort of yellow and red girder looking things?
Yeah.
And then print? What's up with those wavy?
Yeah.
Those bent lines, like.
Right. Yeah, I was wondering that too. Is that pieced or is that just fabric?
It's fabric. And that's what caught my eye about this quilt is, and by the way, Hannah, I love that you said girders because that's absolutely what this looks like to me. I mean, it looks like construction or something. It looks like girders. But that is a print, and it's this very specific. It's not a mourning print, but as in mourning like death, right? But it's from that period. I swear, we need to talk about mourning prints and all that. But like, it's this very specific. There was kind of this sea anemone vibe for a while, and it was this green color and like this brown, and it was really interesting. Some of those prints, and it's some kind of basket weave print. It's not pieced. It's print, and that she put it in the middle of all this blows me away.
Well, yeah, I mean that's audacious because honestly, that underlying fabric, that I think is ugly as sin.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Given this treatment and handled in this way, it's redeemed.
You know what Mom would call that? She taught me. Mom, you've called it wonder fabric. You wonder why you bought it. Why you bought it. So I'm going to move on to the next quilt, and I am going to, wait a minute. This is going to be an interesting one because the quilt that I'm going to show Hannah next, well, maybe I should say it, maybe I shouldn't, but I'll bet you've seen the next quilt that will be on your screen. You may have seen it in person, but I'm really curious about your thoughts on this quilt because this is a very famous quilt. And I have my opinions, and you will have your opinions, and Mom will have her opinions too. Oh, interesting. That was interesting, Mom, what you had to say about that last quilt. Very interesting. Kenny, by the way, on the last quilt, thought about crystalline structures.
Oh, yes. I've been reading the comments are all very astute.
Yeah. Yeah. The people who watch the show, they're pretty smart. They're pretty cool. Okay, tell me when you can see the red and white.
Yes, I see it.
Great.
Well, heck. I feel like I've probably seen this before. Mm-hmm. I really dig the sort of swirly organic situation in the corners. Mm-hmm. And I like, it's cool optical kind of illusion thing. Again, technically, I'm impressed. Can't say I like it.
Okay.
Gonna have to give it a nod.
You're gonna have to give it. You're gonna do this.
I feel like if not that I don't want to talk about drugs on YouTube.
Don't do it.
Don't do any, and then contemplate this quilt because you will fall head first into the full quilt. Yeah,
exactly. Like check this out, Nan. While you were looking at it, I was like, oh God! This is really wow. Whoa! Wow. You know what? This is
too much of a muchness.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Too much of a muchness. This show. Has anybody ever really seen this quilt in this way? That we're looking at it right now, has it ever been possible to really have this effect? Oh God, okay, I'm gonna.
Oh God, it's like shimmering.
I know. I'm sorry. Nobody, by the way, should be. Well, you can watch the show. You can have the show on if you're driving. I know, putting on a live stream is kind of like a podcast, but you can never chat. Well, if you're driving, it's totally fine, whatever. But just you can't be chatting. But I feel like anyone who is driving right now, who's kind of got the show on, over there in the other seat, whatever. This could be dangerous. I won't do that again. I won't do this wah thing. This
Willy Wonka, the boat trip, Willy Wonka boat trip vibe. It's
the boat trip.
Yeah.
Now, Mom says the same thing, Hannah.
It's a stunt quilt.
It's a stunt quilt. Ah, interesting. Mom says impossible to make, but ultimately blah. We may be in the minority, but I am with you. I don't like it. It's fabulous. It's amazing. It's a feat of engineering. And one of the reasons I picked it is because we saw that incredible quilt on the morning show yesterday by Geeta. Hannah, I'll show you later. It's this optical illusion. It's impossible to describe. It defies logic, this particular quilt that these women made together. But this one too is I don't know. It's incredible. And I love that she made it. I love that she finished it. Let's just say that. But it doesn't, I don't know, I feel cold because it doesn't seem cozy to me at all. Or not that every quilt has to be cozy, but it just seems like somebody wanted to do this and they did it, but they didn't care about it or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right.
I 100% concur. Yes.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of brain and not a lot of soul.
You said a lot of what, but not a lot of soul?
A lot of brain and not a lot of soul.
A lot of brain and not a lot of soul. That is a very cool comment. Yes, the Margaret who made it. Yep. Dee Marie.
Word and bird nerd. My niece used to say, I can't like it when she was little. I agree. I can't like it. I'm with my niece on that. That is adorable. I'm putting that into heavy rotation immediately.
Yeah, I can't like it. Molly Squared is here. Hey, Molly.
Check it.
Somebody wanted to show off. I was going to say that too. Lulu Paperbird, you said it too. You're like, just a show off. Margaret Calvert, yeah, I think it is true. Okay, and I got a couple more hot or not for you. because I'm curious. And then I'll let you go because I know on the East Coast it's even later. Okay.
11 o'clock.
It's what?
It's coming up on 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock. You sound like grandma. Okay, so how about this one? Another kind of optical illusion-ish kind of thing, but a very different vibe, of course. This quilt is, we'll find it, it's in my notes. When you see it, you will probably, I mean, this is more contemporary quilt, obviously. This is a 20th century quilt, to be sure.
Ooh. Well, actually, that initial ooh.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's semi-hot. It's like, it's room temperature.
It's room temperature. Yeah.
I wish I liked it more.
Okay, that's fair.
I like it fine.
You like it fine?
I think that it gets, and this is really going to be picky, but it's like, so there's this interesting gradation kind of thing that's happening color-wise, but I feel like it just it was a little bit half thought.
Interesting.
I think it's like if the pieces were slightly smaller and there was more room for that ombre effect to drip down from the top, the moodier color at the bottom. I think if the pieces were smaller or the quilt was bigger or something, but I feel like it wasn't. There's a really good, interesting visual idea going on here, and I don't think it completely comes through in the execution.
I think it's an Amish quilt on Rumspringa.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow, that was really good. Steph.
That was deep nerd right there.
It really was. Like I can't even play the Romy and Michelle quote. I just need to give you applause. Yes, it's an Amish quilt on Rumspringa. Ridiculous. I actually do know who made this one, but I'm not gonna say just because this is where we get into trouble, right? It's like talking about somebody's quilt, whatever, because it is a more contemporary quilt. But Hannah, I thought your critique was wonderful. It was amazing. It's like it needed to push it a little bit further. The person who made it needed to push a little bit more, and people are kind of saying that it's not fully realized somehow.
It's almost, it's like a draft.
Yeah.
It's like a draft that there's good bones there,
right?
Good idea, everything, but it just needs a little bit more. It needs to work a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I got one last quilt for you. This is it. This is our finale. Couldn't be more traditional. This next quilt, the finale quilt, I feel like it's one that we should really go out on because, and Mom's here. Rebecca's got to come on the show at some point. But Mom's here, which is perfect. Mom, I'm so glad. I wish you were here, But this quilt, I feel like, you like me, Hannah, have grown up. You grew up around quilts. It's just all the time. We were in Mom's first book, right? Pictured as little kids, And
quilted vests, yes.
Quilted vests.
70th thing that ever happened.
It's true. So this is an object you recognize, at once. What do you think of this quilt?
I love it.
Yeah, I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew you would.
100%, no notes. It is, there's a lot, I like a lot about it. So it's kind of a deconstructed log cabin, right?
It's a log cabin. It's a sunshine and shadow log cabin. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, sunshine and shadow. That's that thing?
Oh, no, sorry. Barn raising. It's barn raising. But yes, barn raising layout. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I like it. It is this quilt has a muscularity to it that I think is really, it pleases mine eye.
Wow. Muscularity.
Choice. Yeah. I put that on my bed happily, and it would look great.
Yep. I thought you'd say that, and I love that you said muscular. Yeah. I have Sauron. I love that rock dog. I thought you'd really like it.
When was it from? What year?
Oh my God, are you reading what Mom is saying? I'm not even reading that. It's like, Mom, you're ridiculous. You're a ridiculous person. So what year? This is 19th century. I don't have it. I don't have the date on it. I'm just going to say, you know what? I'm going to say what my mother said in the chat. First she said, I've had wine. So, So I'm saying this quilt makes me think of an elegant gay man. What does that even mean, Mom? What does it mean?
Who's lives in an exquisitely designed cabin in the North Woods somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Jill Alex had mentioned a phrase earlier when I was joking about Fonzathon when we saw that Marianne had showed up. Jill Alex says, you've been Fonsed.
Oh my God, yes.
Got double Fonsed.
Oh my
Let's try to
God.
see as an elegant gay man. Well, see, good. See, you never.
And a muscular quilt. We've been Fonsed.
You've been Fonsed, Jill. I love you. And Jill said, I feel like Hannah is the romantic poet art critic we all need in our lives. Jill, if you're ever in New York, you should call Hannah because you guys, you should hang out. You've been Fonsed? That's amazing. This quilt has been Fonsed by Mom, who is saying that, can you imagine what the maker would say if it was like, it was Mary Fons is like, your quilt reminds me of an elegant gay man. I've had wine, so, forgive me, but this is what I think. Oh, God.
She clarified, it's the quilt of an elegant gay man, not an elegant gay man.
Oh, not, okay. I thought you were saying this quilt sort of personified.
The quilt is muscular, and it is owned by an elegant gay man.
I see.
I do agree. Yeah. That feels accurate to me.
Oh my God. This is Jump the Tracks.
It's Jump the Tracks. It's Jump the Tracks. Everybody, thank you so much for coming. It was a night where we went to the Pacific Northwest, we sort of dabbled in metaphysics, and then we looked at, indigenous practices, weaving practices, and then we did kind of a rapid fire, is it hot or not? What does that mean to a person?
I just had a thought.
Yeah.
Can I say it before I forget?
Of course, yes.
Being as how we are on the cusp of spooky season,
Oh, yeah.
we must do a spooky quilt.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. That's a great idea. And actually,
Quilts.
yes.
Quilts. Like,
Scary quilts? Yeah. We'll do it. We'll do
Quilt
it.
show in October.
We'll do it. That's your show. I'm gonna show you scary quilts. They're gonna be really scary. I have a couple in mind already that are gonna scare you, and not because they're not successful. They're
Deliberately creepy quilts.
There's some creepy ones. Okay, cool. I can do that. And we talked about what makes a quilt art or not, or is it quilt? We basically had a pretty standard Quilt Nerd show, except I had two people on the mic and all kinds of stuff. So that was new for me. Hannah, you are brilliant. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's such a crack up. You're so great, and people love to see you, and they're going to see you on screen soon. But people love to hear what you have to say, Nan. And so do I.
Yeah, it's always super fun, and it's really cool even though I had a little bit of delay, so I felt like I was like reading the comments, and as people were chiming in on stuff, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's like being at a really, really unusual cocktail party with interesting people. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, it is good stuff. Thank you so much for being on. And Stephanie Cake, thank you so much for holding it down, girl. She does this. See, that's why I want people on screen, because you can see Stephanie do this and go nodding really, really hard when you like something or agree. That's good. Thank you, Cake. I really appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Love everybody.
Let me bye. Okay, and bye, Mom. We'll see you later. And thanks everybody in the chat. Exactly. And for people who are new, come back. Every show is different, and this is what we like to do on a Saturday night. So if you're like us, we'll see you next time. Okay.